Hey gang, welcome back. I'm about to start. I haven't done any painting since I finished the last phase, so we haven't missed anything. Let's get official though. This is Daily Art Adventure number 993. Creeping our way up to number 1000. Wow. Phase 2, wedding painting in a studio. That's the reason I'm wearing a tux and a bow tie. Because I want to look from the back, I want it to look like I'm painting this at a wedding, so that perhaps it's likely that I will edit this video and create a a finished video of me doing the wedding painting from start to finish, because it's not very often that I do a complete wedding painting as if it had been done at the wedding itself. And of course, when I am at a wedding, there are all kinds of mitigating factors that make it difficult to create a good video. So this is just for marketing. Oh no, I'm doing the painting for money, but the wearing the tux and making this video is hopefully for marketing purposes. I can put on my website, another video that shows me doing a painting from start to finish. This is the first time ever, I believe, that by the way, I just put I'm putting extra medium on my brushes, and then dipped my brush in phthalo blue to begin rendering these. There's a window there and there. Really helps to set off the scene, the painting, because inside the building, this is a lovely venue, wedding venue I did about a month ago, and it was a garden center transformed into a wedding venue. It was quite lovely, and I mentioned this earlier this morning. I've already done I did this painting, started this painting, of course, live at the event, and the customer wanted 2 paintings. So I'm trying, I don't know if I'm the right, I'm not copying this painting. In fact, I'm mostly ignoring it. I have it sitting over here, I can see it, but I'm ignoring it mostly because, for one thing, I can't stand to do the same painting twice. That's truly a painful experience if I were to do that. So I'm just creating a second painting. Here's my reference photo for the bride and groom, and I have the reference for the setting up there. All right, I think that's enough of doing some broad glazing. Now I'm going to go to the other extreme. That is to say, the glazing that I just finished was accomplished with 4-inch brushes. That's a large tool. Now I'm going to the opposite extreme, which is an extremely fine tool. Whoops, I have a drawing mistake here. Hang on. This now, don't be too alarmed. I says to myself, don't be too alarmed. This is the way I operate. I would rather draw with considerable dispatch, with consider that's a word that means quickness. Don't sit around for a long time thinking, so to speak, about what I'm going to draw. I just go ahead and start. Bam! Just get after it. So that is what you see every time you watch me. Pretty much every time you watch me do a painting, that's my modus operandi. Just bam, get after it. Don't spend a lot of time measuring, thinking, measuring, gritting, cheating, quote unquote. I'm sorry, I try not to use that word, cheating. But no. Generally speaking, no technical, photo technical devices or tricks for rendering the object. Just get after it. So when I do that, then things like this happen. It's not infrequently, because I'm drawing with another word, aplomb, A-P-L-O-M-B, with aplomb, speed, freedom, so a devil-may-care attitude might be a funny way to define aplomb. But painting in this rapid way, of course, or drawing, I should say drawing really, I'm likely to make judgment error mistakes. Oh, I'm making another one right now. And for me, let me continue on that theme for a bit, because for me, the making of quote unquote mistakes, again, like in the first rendering, I had the bottom of the fireplace mantle, not mantle, the thing at the bottom of the fireplace. I had it all down here. Now I'm raising up almost an inch. In other words, this first line was a quote-unquote mistake. The only reason I put quotes, air quotes, around that mistake word is because it's actually to my advantage, believe it or not, it's to my advantage to make such quote-unquote mistakes. So, and here's another one. This line was inside the opening of the fireplace. I've now raised it all the way up to here, which means that's part of the mistake. When I was drawing these candles, I was going by the old. Anyway, the correcting, the making of mistakes. Again, I put that essentially in air quotes. The making of mistakes and the making and correcting of mistakes lets me end up with, in fact, a better painting than if I had not made those mistakes at all. You ask why. So like, for instance, here's an erroneous line. That purple line right there is, quote unquote, a mistake, because it's supposed to be up here. At least that's what I think right now. Maybe a little bit lower than that, maybe about here. So why is the presence of that erroneous mark advantageous, beneficial? Why does it result in a better painting? And I absolutely believe it does. Now, explaining why or how, that is a little bit difficult, but I'm putting my photo reference for my bride and groom up there for just a minute. And the answer is because it creates texture. it creates, okay, here's what I'm going to try to describe it. When I put down a mark, like I'm talking about that one, there's a whole bunch, but that one in particular, for instance, right now. When I put down a mark, thinking, of course, that it's correct, and then I come back a few minutes later, like now, and think, oh, it's not correct, and then making a new mark, there'll be much more of that going on as the painting progresses. And with each one of those changes, I'll use psychological language. The viewer of the finished painting, let me put up a finished painting while I talk about it. The viewer of the finished painting will see, I have to look, there's not one here, they will see these iterations. To iterate means to start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. They will see these false and then correct marks. And it will convey to the viewer actually an accurate sense of how the painting was created. Now, I don't expect any viewer, non-artist, to process this consciously, but unconsciously, they will get the sense that this painting came out of a process of, to put it too strongly, struggle. It came out of process, period. But it came out of a process of real life, hunt, uncover, discover, realize, verify, confirm, disconfirm, and so on and so forth. And you get that sense by looking at my finished paintings. Now, another word for it is they're not slick. That's one, by the way. So what's wrong, by the way, with if you every once in a while you might go by a gas station or a closed gas, a building that used to be a gas station, and they're selling paintings. They've got a couple hundred paintings leaned up against the signposts and so forth. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? And the paintings will be priced from, and when you first walk up, they're like, wow, those are beautiful paintings, and they're priced outrageously low, like $25, $30, and then people look at people like me and say, what do you mean $1,000? What do you mean $3,000? I could buy a better painting for $25 down at the gas station. And don't get me wrong, by the way, the people that do that stuff are pretty darn skilled. They really are. But they're factory-made paintings, made in China, as far as I know, pretty much exclusively by people that are truly gifted. But it's a factory. One person paints the tree, passes it to the next guy who paints the roof of the barn, passes it next guy or girl who paints the windows on the barn, passes to the next guy who paints the swan floating on the pond, paints it to the next person who paints the pond, do you understand? That's how those are done. And even though at first to an unsophisticated viewer, they might look like darn pretty good paintings, and they are pretty good. There's quite a bit of setup goes into setting up a paint factory, so to speak, a painting factory, I should say, not a painting factory. And they hire people with real skill. But what's wrong with the paintings? Well, one of the answers is there's no struggle. They're too slick. They can't, and they do a good job, I must say, they do a pretty good job of trying to hide this lack of slickness, I'm calling it. So it doesn't look like it was done the way I just described, when in fact it was. But that's just one way to describe. And again, why is it good to have mistakes that are corrected? Whoops. Because every mark that I put on the canvas is a history of the process that I went through in creating it. All right, I'm gonna well, no, hang on, a little bit more. Shortly, I'm going to abandon the skinny pencil mark stuff and and go back to painting. And I fear that everything I just said was clear as mud. If you're a new follower, continue to follow me, and perhaps it'll become clearer if you hear me repeat those kind of principles over and over and over again, which I tend to do, without apology, by the way. I repeat the same things over and over and over because I'm a good teacher. Oh, Uncle, can you hear my music? Yeah. That's, everything that's playing in the background is copyright free. I pay about $15 a month. I'm quite happy with it. The service is called Epidemic Sound, and they have tens of thousands of musical pieces. When I first signed up, I thought, well, that's kind of a lot of, I don't know, pop and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of pop. Very much for the same reason I'm not a huge fan of parking lot paintings. Slick. Anyway, oh, I don't need to go there. But after working with this Epidemic Sound for a while, I've discovered, oh my goodness, no. It's clear that there are a number of very, very talented musicians around the world that will use whatever service is available, whatever program is available for getting their music out to the world. And as being a musician, I certainly understand that impulse. But anyway, a very, very talented stable of musicians. Very, very... Anyway, so I enjoy that, so I'm covered. By the way, Uncle, if you're still with us, let me see, who else is saying hi? Hearth, thank you. Yes, Hearth. I said mantled, and then once I said it, I couldn't pull up the word hearth. Oh boy, I'd be worried about myself, except I think that kind of thing happens most of the time when I'm painting. It seems like I get in my visual brain and my vocabulary brain goes out the window. At least that's my story. I'm sticking with it, okay? Hearth. Thank you very much. Smart Alec. Hey, Radina. Good morning to you. The fireplace pit floor should not be more than 8 to 12 inches above the dance floor. Oh, yeah. So you tell. Yeah. I got it about 16 inches above. Maybe it's a little high. Uncle, while we were gone, but during the hour or so that I think I have resolved, I think, we'll see, but I think I have resolved my question that we were talking about earlier. You had mentioned, could I broadcast some of my teaching and preaching, teaching, playing music? And it took me a while to figure out how do I do that. So yeah, indeed, I have opened a new Google identity, a new Google account, and I'm starting a new separate and distinct YouTube channel. So there you go. It's called, whereas this one is Dan Nelson Art, that one is Dan Nelson Teaching. So there we go. We'll see how it goes. I'm not making any wild and crazy promises, but at least I've taken the first steps of so we won't be doing the old bait and switch thing that I was concerned about. It'll be a completely separate channel. I'll make reference to it so people can go over there if they want to. So thank you. Thanks for giving me a little push to get that done. It took me a while to figure out how do you even start a new YouTube channel. It's been so long since I did that. I couldn't remember how. And then finally, I was like, oh yeah, I have to start a whole new Google identity. So my new other Google identity is Dan Nelson Teaching. Pretty clever, eh? let me go back to my the question I was trying to answer a while ago about why, in my opinion, for me, why is it better to make erroneous marks and then correct them as opposed to not make erroneous marks in the first place, which, you know, nothing wrong with that approach to painting. One of the ways I've described my underpainting process, especially the layers of acrylic. By the way, this is my second layer of opaque acrylic white. So one of the ways I describe my whole underpainting process is that I'm focused on creating a high degree of chaos, a lot of chaos in all of the underpainting processes, so that I have lots and lots to respond to in the tight, realistic finish up layers. One of the worst things that can happen for me is I arrive at what I call the final edit layer, and I have to make stuff up. There's some part of the canvas that doesn't have enough busyness on it, enough chaos. That is a problem, because a lot of the charm, I think, of my paintings has to do with the interaction between the finished realism layers at the end and what I'm here calling chaotic, the random textures, lines, shapes, and so forth that were laid down in the early stages of the underpainting. So anyway, that's another reason why making mistakes and then correcting them is beneficial to me, because it all goes for part of making the chaos that is the underpainting behind the realism. As you know, my paintings end up fairly realistic, but it's, in my opinion, it's the charm of the interplay between the realism and the abstraction, which again is a big, why do I start with a completely abstract painting? Because it's the interplay between those two. Drawing something is easy, quote unquote, relatively speaking. Rendering a thing, drawing a thing is the easy part. Making people want to look at it is the hard part. And one of the ways that artists, all through the millennia, have gotten people to look with interest at their artwork is by making it hyper, super, super, super realistic. That's one tactic for making people like your artwork. Make it super realistic. And I lived in that world as an illustrator for decades. Before the light bulb came on, I went, wait a minute. There are things more important than similitude. And that's what everything you see me do now is a reflection of that conversion, if you will, that turning. All right, this is going to be a short broadcast, evidently, because all of that white is wet, and there's not really much I can do to this painting in its current condition. So we're going to stop right there. Hey, Uncle, bless you, popcorn and beer. Oh, by the way, Uncle and anybody else who's a regular, thank you very much. I appreciate that. An assassin. Thank you. I'm using my new camera. This is the new upgraded Mevo camera. I don't know if you can tell any difference. You probably require side by side, but if it dawns on you, I think that probably the biggest difference is going to be a stable stream. Let me know if that comes across any better. All right. Thank you, Uncle. You're too kind. I appreciate it immensely. And so I'm going to pause there. I don't think I'll be gone very long this time. When I come back, I could go to oil, but no. Let me review then. When is it time to proceed to oil? You old timers have heard this. When the drawing is close to perfect, nearly perfect. When the colors are close to perfect, and when the values are close, and none of those are true. We're on our way, but the drawing of the bride and groom needs to be a little more accurate. Everything needs to be a little tighter, and the overall painting needs to be darker and warmer, well, and more blue, so darker and cooler. So no, that means when I come back, I'll be doing more glazes to get the color right and the values right, then drawing with brushes and drawing with pencil to get the drawing right, and then one layer. I